All right, so as I said, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So in this lecture, we're gonna be discussing the concept of loops. So what is the loop? Loop is when something happens or is executed a certain number of times. Sometimes we know how many times it is executed. Sometimes we just don't know. So there are three types of loops in C++, but the most common one are the first two. So we're going to cover the first two. I will introduce the third one, but I don't think you will be, you will be using it frequently, maybe once in a while, because it's very similar to the second one, except in one situation. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Make sure that the page is open. Okay. All right. Can you see, guys, my page?
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's start with the first one. It's called the for loop. For loop. How does it work? Is it too small? Do you want me to make it bigger, or is it big enough?
That's good. That's good.
Okay. Let me know if you
Yes.
have. Yeah. Okay. That's how it starts. We start with for. Remember, it starts with when you use if statement, we use if. For the for loop, we use for. It should be lowercase, and then you have to use three components or three parts. That's why I put right here, separated by semicolon. You have to tell the computer three things. The first thing is, first one, I need a variable because I'm going to be using the variable as a counter. So let's call it I. Okay? I'm going to tell the computer where to start. Because how does the computer know how many times it will be executing statements? You have to tell the computer, okay, where it starts, where to end. And the computer is going to keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, stop. So I'm going to tell the computer, okay, start from 1. You don't have to start 1 all the time. It's very common to start from 1, but you don't have to. And then I'm going to tell the computer, keep going all the way to 10. Okay? And then go by 1, because sometimes you may want to skip. So I'm going to put here. So this is go from 1 all the way to 10 and go by 1. I plus plus, that means go 1 at a time. 1, 2, don't skip. If I put plus equal to, then it's going to go 1, 3, 5, 7. And then I'm going to say to the computer, okay, C out, that means print the following statements. C plus plus is fine, for example. And then I'm going to just put that and L. So if I run the program, as you can see right here, the computer will start printing. It's going to say I equals 1, print. C++ is fun. Plus plus means move on to the next value too. But before executing, you need to check that condition in the middle. Is it true? If it's true, the computer will execute. If it's not true, it will stop and exit the loop. So I equals 1. Is 1 less or equal than 10? Yes. Print C++ is fun. Move on to the next value, 2. Is 2 less or equal than 10? Yes. Print C++ is fun. Move on to the next one, 3, and then check. So I'm going to keep going all the way to 10. Is 10 less or equal than 10? Yes. Print C++ is fun. Move on to the next value, 11. Is 11 less or equal than 10? No. That's how the computer stops and exits the loop. So if I run the program, as you can see right here, you're going to see, okay, let me stop, and they put L. Oh, I forgot here to put 2 brackets. All right. So it's going to print, yeah, it's going to print C++. Look how many times? 10 times. 10 times. If you want to put only 4 times, put here 4, that's 4 times. See that? Does it matter? I can start from 0. So now I have 5 times, right? Because if you start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5 times. So it doesn't really matter. As long as the number of times is the same, it doesn't matter where you start, where you end. Okay? I can, I can start from 10 to 14. It doesn't really matter. When you go from 10 to 14, that's still 5 times. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 5 times. So it's the same thing. Why? The computer starts with the number and keeps going one by one all the way until that condition is false, and then it stops. Now, do I have to type only the statement? I can print the number itself, the I, because I keeps changing, right? So here, if I print, it's going to give me all the numbers that I took, all the values. See, 10, 11, 12. If I start from 1 all the way to 6, it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, what about if you want to do it horizontally? Yeah, you can do that. Just don't use and L and leave like a little space to separate them. And don't forget to, yeah, because I want to do it horizontally. So now I'm going to have it horizontally. See that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I change it to 10, it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What about if I want to skip? I don't want to go by 1. Yes. Just put plus equal 2. So this will skip by 2. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Now, what about if I want to start from 0? That's fine. Start from 0. So now we have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. I want to start from 10. And I want to go all the way to 100. But I want to skip by 10. Can I do that? Yes, you can. So you're going to run the program. You're going to see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. See that? Okay, what about if I don't want to go forward? I want to go backward. That's fine, but you have to be careful because you are changing direction. So let's say I want to go from 10 to 1. Okay, start from 10, but change the symbol. This is the most important part. Look, before, to go forward, I use this. Now I'm going to use this. That means as long as the number is higher, because you are going from a higher value to a lower value, from 10 to 1. So I'm saying as long as the number is higher or equal than 1, keep printing and subtract by 1 because I'm going in the opposite direction. Everybody get this? So 10, 9, 8, 7, all these numbers are higher or equal than 1. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once you get to 0, it's going to stop. Why? Because 0 is not higher or equal than 1, so the computer will not execute that. It will not display 0 because it does not pass the test. It does not meet this requirement in the middle. Okay, and the same thing I can skip by 2 if I want to. Remember, we use plus, equal, minus, equal, not the opposite. Don't put equal plus or equal minus because that's going to change the whole thing. And then, or you can use I equals I minus 2. It means the same thing. We talked about this last time, that I plus plus means the same thing as I plus equal 1, or I equals I plus 1. All of this, let me write it down here so you can remember. So when I say, I'm going to put it as a comment here. I plus plus means the same thing as I plus equal 1. The same, okay, put semicolon here. And then I equal I plus 1. All these three, they mean the same thing, which is adding 1 to the value of I. You are incrementing by 1. That's all what it means. Sometimes we use the first one because it's faster. It's like a shortcut. Sometimes we use the second one. Sometimes we use the third one. So here I'm subtracting by 2, so I'm going to get 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and stop. Why I didn't get to 0? Because 0 is not higher or equal than 1, so it cannot be displayed. Okay? Everybody get this? So that's how the for loop works. See? Very simple. Now, can I use multiply? Of course I can. I can start from 1. And then instead of adding, I'm going to go all the way, let's say, to 80. But instead of adding, I'm going to put multiply. Let's see if that's going to work. So what do you think? What values do you think I'm going to get? I'm not adding, I'm multiplying. So the first value is 1. The second one, you multiply by 2. You get 2. As long as the number is less than 80, keep printing and move on to the next value. 2 times 2, 4. Times 2, 8. Times 2, 16. Times 2, 30. I'm watching that, that condition. I'm not saying since 16 and I'm watching. Is 16 less than 80? Because if it's not true, I cannot do it. I cannot, the compiler will not print or display the number. 16 times 2, 32. 32 times 2, 64. Well, 64 is less than 80, that's fine. But 64 times 2, 128. You can do that. So 128 will not be printed because it does not pass the test. Everybody got this? Now I'm gonna make a little change. Let's see if you're gonna pay attention. If I change this 1 to 0, what do you think is gonna happen?
0.
What do you think I'm gonna get if I run? Don't run the program because that's gonna crash your computer. Because I'm gonna keep having 0, 0, 0 all the time, there is no way I'm gonna exit that loop. Because you multiply 0 by 2, you get 0. Multiply by 2, 0. It doesn't matter. There will be no way you're gonna get out of that cycle. Why? Because you are stuck with 0. So this is one of the situations we call infinite loop. Infinite loop is when you are stuck in that loop because, either intentionally or unintentionally, you got into that situation. Another example, let's say, for example, instead of I use multiply, I use minus, for example. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think I'm going to end, this loop is going to end? What's going to happen?
You're gonna keep subtracting -2 because it's
Exactly.
never...
You are away. You are getting farther from 80. You are not getting closer to 80 because you are going into the opposite direction, the negative side. So you are subtracting 2. There is no way for that condition to be false. It's going to be less than 80 all the time. It's getting farther and farther away from 80. So also this is another situation or another example of infinite loop. But sometimes we may be a situation when nothing happened. Like let's say this. I put, let's say, 100 here, and then I multiply here. What do you think is going to happen here?
It won't give you anything?
Nothing, no output. Why? Because the condition is false to begin with. 100 is less than 80, the computer will stop. Nothing will happen. It's not an error. It's just no output. You're not going to see anything. Why? Because that condition, it's false to begin with. Okay? So this is the 3 situations you may have. The normal one is when you print a certain number of times. That's the most common one. Or you may have an infinite loop. Or you may have no output at all. This is the 3 situations you may have to deal with. Okay? Now, let's see. The same thing as I said, like for divide. Let's say I want to divide, I need to make sure that I change the symbol. So when you have incrementation, either plus or multiply, we use less than for multiplication and addition. For subtraction and division, we use the opposite, and then we use either minus or division. So be careful because you are going backward. Whether you are subtracting or dividing, the number gets smaller. So if I have something like this, what do you think I'm going to get? What numbers I'm going to get, or what is the output of this loop? What is the output? You start with 100. Is 100 higher than 2?
50, 150, then 25.
25.
12, well, 12 or 13?
No, only 12. Remember, integer over integer is only integer.
Yeah.
There is
So
no
12, then 6,
and 3. And that's
3,
it,
and
right?
that's it.
That's it, because 3 over 2 is 1. 1 is not higher than 2, and that you are absolutely correct. So it's 150, 25, 12, 6, 3, and stop. Okay, so this is the situation. Either you are incrementing or decrementing, either you are adding, subtracting, multiplying. But the most common one, of course, is plus and minus. That's the most frequently used one. Now, before we move to the second type, let's do some examples. Let's do some practice of this. So I'm going to stop here, stop sharing, and then show some examples here. Let me see if I can find a few examples here. let's see. Yeah, we have one this way. So let me share that. So let's see right there. Okay, can you see this? All right, so let's start with the first one, just to practice, like make sure that we, we grasp that concept of loop. Okay, exercise number 1. I want you to write a program that will output even integers from 0 to 50 using the for loop. How can you do that? So I want to print only the even numbers, which means 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way to 50. How can I do that? Using the for loop. Can you try? So I give you a minute, 60 seconds. And then, because it's only 1 or 2 lines, that's right. Just like what we did. It doesn't matter how you do it. There's more than one way. But make sure that you print only the even numbers, 0, 2, 4, all the way to 50. Even if you make mistakes, that's fine. That's how we learn. Even if you crash your computer, that's fine. That's part of the learning process. Anybody did figure it out? Anybody wants to share? Feel free to share. Anybody? Even if you are not finished, just share with us so we can learn together. Any volunteer? All right, so let's do it together here. So if you start from 0, that means you're gonna go from 0 right here. And then the last value is 50, so I'm gonna put here 50. I'm gonna put less equal 50. Now since I'm going by 2, I'm gonna put plus equal to. That's how simple it is. See? So this will print all the even numbers from 0 to 50. That's one way. The second way, I can leave this one as plus plus. Attention here. And then I'm going to add an if statement. I'm going to tell the computer, print only the even numbers. So I'm going to put I. Remember we used the modulus 2. That means when you divide by 2 and the remainder is 0, it is an even number. And then print. So I'm going to get the same thing. As you can see right here, is the same output. It just, I mean, I like the first one because it's less code, but that's another alternative. All right, so now let's move on to the second one. Second one, let me share the problems here. The second one, write a program that will output the multiples of 3 from 1 to 60. That means basically 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, all the multiples of 3. So also again, here you have 2 ways to do that. I can either start from 3. Let me share again. So I can either start from 3 because I'm not going to include 0. I'm going to start from 3 and then all the way to 60. And then I'm going to go by 3. That's the easiest way. So I don't have to use if statements because we are incrementing by 3. So that's one option. Or you can use the if statement just like what we did earlier. So they're going to give you between 3 and 60. Okay, or you can use the if statements as we did before. All right. Now let's move on to the next one. Try to, to use as many examples because, you know, practice it makes perfect, as they say. Question number 3, write a program that will sum up, to basically calculate the sum of all the numbers between 10 and 20. So we're calculating the sum. So when you calculate the sum, you have to save it somewhere. So we need a variable for that. So let's do that. So I'm going to share my program. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start from 10. First one, I need a variable. I'm going to call it sum. I'm going to assign it 0 because where I'm going to put the sum, I need that. And then I'm going to start from 10 all the way to 20. And I'm going by 1. I'm not going to skip. So I'm going to put either plus equal 1 or plus plus. And then this is when I'm going to calculate the sum. I'm going to put sum plus equal I. That means keep adding. It's like first one, it was 0, right? The initial value of sum is 0. Now the first value of I is 10, so I added 10 to 0. Now the sum is 10. And then again, I added 11, so that's 21 now. And then you add 13, and so on. 13 plus 14 plus 15. Every time you add the number, you are updating the value of the sum. The sum is changing the value every time you add the number. So by the time you get 20, you have all the numbers. So now I can print the number. I can put here the total is, and then I'm going to use sum. And then run the program, you're going to see that the total is 165. Now, if you want to see what went through the brain of the computer, the CPU, let's print here. I'm going to print inside, because when you print inside the loop, that means it's like you are repeating. That means you are doing it over and over. If you print outside the loop, you are waiting until the process comes to an end, and then you print the final value. But if you put it here, that means every time you add a number, you print. So I'm going to put here the total at this point. That means for every pass. So that's going to give me, I'm just going to make sure that it's start new line every time. So look at the process. It's like this is telling us what the computer went through. See that? The total at this point is 10. So that was the first. When I equals 10, you added 10 to 0. And then I added 11. I added 12, then 13, then 14. And every time the computer is updating the value of the variable sum. So here it shows us very clearly what went through. Of course, the computer will do it so fast, you're not going to see the difference. But this is how it happened. Okay? So this is the question for calculating the sum. Okay? Now let's move on to the next one. So every time you do a problem, it will make more sense to you. So let's go to the next problem. The next problem, it says, write a program. Here we're going to use the scanner. Prompt.scan. Basically, we're going to get the input from the user. Write a program that prompts the user to enter a word, that means a string, and an integer, x, and display that word, that string, x number of times. For example, if the user enter a computer and then enter a number 3, it means print computer 3 times. So we're going to use the loop from 1 to 3, 3 times print computer. So let's do this together and see how it works. So I'm going to share my program again. So now I'm going to go right here, delete all of this. I don't need it. Now, what do I need? What variable do I need? I need string. That's for the word. Okay. And then I need a number, x. Okay, so I'm going to use integer x. So let's start prompting the user, enter a word. Okay, and then I'm going either use \n, so I can start new line, and then I'm gonna get the input from the user using cin, and then you put a word. And the same thing, okay, I forgot the semicolon here, and I forgot the second brackets here. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the number. Cout, enter a number, or enter the number of times. Enter a number of times the word will be repeated. The word will be repeated. Just to explain what we are doing. So I'm going to put L. Now I'm going to get that input from the user X. So now I got all the information. I have the word, I have how many times. So now I'm going to use the loop. I'm going to tell the computer start from 1. Okay, let me have variable here for the int I, that's my counter. And then I'm going to put x I equals 1. Go all the way to where? How do I know how many times? It is in the variable x. So I'm going to put x. That means whatever x is. If the user enters 4, then x has a value of 4. If the user enters 10, then 10 is x, and so on. And then you are going by 1. Okay, plus plus. And then what am I supposed to print? I want to print the word itself. So I'm going to put cout and then put the word itself. If you want to do it horizontally, you just have to have a space to separate them, and then that's it. So let's run the program again. So I prompted the user to enter the string, the word, how many times you want it repeated, and the I is for the counter, for the loop. So when I run the program, enter the word, let's say computer, hit the enter key, enter the number of times the word will be repeated. I'm going to say 4. So once I hit the enter key, you're going to see computer 4 times, because from 1 to 4 is 4 times. See that? Does this make sense? Any questions about anything? So here we're just applying this a loop to like kind of real situations. Okay, we are prompting the user to enter the string that needs to be repeated, and then do how many times you want it repeated. Now the other question is, let's say I want to print, but I don't look. I want to prompt the user to enter a word like computer, and I want to repeat computer as many times. Listen to this, as many times as the number of characters in computer. How many letters or characters we have in computer? COMPUTER. That's 8. So it should be repeated 8 times. If the user enter, let's say dog, or dog has 3, so dog will be repeated 3 times, or cat 3 times, Mike 4 times. So how can we do that? We got the word first. Now we are going to know, okay, how do we get the number of characters from a word? Remember we talked about the length. So length, I'm going to save it here. I'm going to call it length. We get a string and then we put length. So this will give me how many characters I have. So that's easy. Length will return the number of characters in that string. So here, instead of using x, I'm going to use len. That means whatever the length of the string. Computer, the length of computer is 8 because it has 8 characters. So now if I run the program, it's going to show me. Let's say if I put cat in here. Okay, cat has only 3 letters, so it's going to show cat 3 times. But if I type, let's say here, and I put, let's say, Jacob, for example. See, Jacob is 5 times because it has 5 characters. But if I put computer, that's going to be a long one, right? See, 8 times. Why? Because I saved the length in a variable called len, and that's the one I used in the loop. Okay, any questions about the for loop? We can also do something else. We can ask or prompt the user to enter a first number, like starting value, and then ending value, and then we can either print all the numbers in between, or we can add them up, or maybe even calculate the average? Let's do this one. That's a good question. So I'm going to put enter the starting value. Okay. So I'm going to put here, let's say starting value. I'm going to call it start. So we have start, and then we have end. Then of course we need the I for the loop. And then I'm going to ask the same question. So here, this one will be start. And then I'm just going to copy this because I'm going to repeat that. Copy. Now enter the end value. Of course, we're assuming here that the starting value is less than end value. Like for example, start from 5 to 10. So start is 5, and then 10 is the end. And then I'm gonna, okay, save it as end. Now I'm going to start from where? From start. See that? From start. So I'm not gonna start from 1, whatever the start is, because start tells me where to start. And then I'm gonna go all the way to end. And then print all the numbers in between, which is I. So pay attention to this, make sure it makes sense to you. So I prompted the user to enter starting value, whatever the value that the user will start from. And then the end value. Again, we are assuming that the starting value is less than the end value, and then it will print all the numbers. So let's see if that's going to happen. So I'm going to prompt the user. So it's going to say, okay, let's say 5. Enter the end value. I'm going to put 10. See, it's printed all the numbers 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's say I want to add them up. So you can do the same thing like a few minutes earlier we did the sum, right? So I'm gonna put sum equals 0. And then instead of printing, I'm not gonna print, I'm not interested in printing, I just want to add them up. So I'm gonna put sum plus equal I. So this will give me the sum. So outside the loop, that means once you are done, adding all the values, then show me or display the total is sum. So let's see if this is going to happen. So let's say I want to start from 1 all the way to 6. Oh, that's 21. If you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, you get 21. Now my question to you, how can I calculate the average? The average is the total divided by how many numbers you have. How do I know how many numbers I have if I know where to start, where to end? So this is a question for all of you. Let's see if you can figure it out. I have the sum, but I'm going to put here, let's say I want the average. So I'm going to put and L. I'm not going to answer the question. I'm just going to show you that I'm looking for the average. The average is, and I want to put it here. What do you think I'm going to put here so it calculates the average? What do you think? And by the way, there are more than one way. So how do I know? How do you find the average?
Sum divided by the number of
Thank you so much, Wael. Now, how do I know how many numbers I have? The only thing I have is the starting and the end. Is there anything I can do from this information? I can find how many numbers I have.
the subtraction from the end to the starting.
Yeah, do you mean like end minus start? Let's start. Okay, let's start. Let's try it. So if we have, okay, let's say I'm going to start from 1 to 5. Okay, so I'm going to divide by, according to Wael, he said end minus starts. So if I start from 1 to 5, how many numbers I have? 5 minus 1, is it 4 numbers? From 1 to 5, 5 numbers, but when you subtract, when you do 5 minus 1, you get only 4. So what do I have to add so I get the exact number?
Add 2.
2 is too much because 4 plus 2 is 6. I don't have 6 numbers, I have only 5.
Oh, add
so
1.
If we have 1, exactly, 1 right here. So I need to add 1 because when you put end minus start, it gives you 1 less. If I start from 1 to 5, that's 5 times. But when I put 5 minus 1, it gives me a 4. That means I need to add. So I'm going to write and then, so that's one way. Okay, into the starting value 1 and then 5. Say it gives me 3 because 15 divided by 5 is 3. That's correct. That's one way. Or I can do something else. I can have a variable. All what it does, that variable, it's just going to keep incrementing. Counts plus plus. That's all what it does. It just keep incrementing by. It's like you were counting. Every time you mention like one number, it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the job or the function of this variable is just to count. That's all what it does. So I can do the same thing here to show you that you're going to get the same answer. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put the average is sum divided by count. Now the correct way for both of them, remember integer over integer, you get only the integer. So if you have decimal, I may have a problem. I may have to change this one to double to make sure I don't miss the decimal. I would just like it here because it was divisible. 15 divided by 5 is 3. But if I have a decimal, I'm going to get only the integer. So to avoid that problem, I'm going to put double in front of that. Or you can declare count as double. That's another option. So now if I run the program, I'm going to get exactly the same thing. So if I get 5 and 10, so 5 to 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6 numbers. So that's going to give me 7.5. You see, I just did not print this, that's why. So I'm going to go right here and then put and L. So it shows the second average in a separate line. So 5, 10, and then done. See, it's the same. That shows you that it gives you the same answer regardless which way you go. Okay, any questions about this? Now, let's talk about the while loop. Okay, so the while loop is very similar to the for loop. Most of the time, it does not really matter which way you go, but in some situation, we're going to mention one of them, it does make a difference. So how does the while loop work? Very simple. You start with the variable, the starting point. This time, I'm going to say x equals 1. And then I'm going to use the while loop. The best translation for while is as long as x is less or equal than 10, print the number. I can put the space here if you want to. Okay, and don't forget to increment the variable. So 1 is 1 less or equal than 10? Yes, print and then add 1. 2. Is 2 less or equal than 10? Yes, print and add 1. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once you get to 11, then it's going to stop. Why? Because 11 is not less. So that's how the while loop. While loop, very straightforward. See? I can go by 2 if I want to, just like what we mentioned, like when we covered the for loop. That's the same thing. You can go by 2, by 3. You can go backward. So I can go from 10, but you have to change the symbol, and then you change the decrementation to minus. 2 things has to change, or you're gonna get an infinite loop. See that we have 10. Oh, okay. Did I miss something? Higher than 1. I didn't change that one because we're going from 10 to a lower number. So that's going to give me from 10 to 1. Okay, I'm skipping by 2. I can go from 100 to 10 and then going by 10 or by 5. So that's going to give me all these numbers, as you can see. There we go. 195, 90, all the way to 10. So it's very similar to that one. But there are some situations when we have to make a choice. Like one of them will be better than the other, or probably the most efficient way. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say we are trying to create a program for ATM. where the user will come and then try to enter the PIN number, and the computer or the program will check if that PIN number matches the one in the file. Because remember, the first time when you create an account in the bank, they will ask you, can you choose like a 4-number PIN number? You have to choose it, and they put it in the files. Nobody knows about that. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna choose, this is the PIN number. I'm gonna choose like a random 2 digits, 4264. Okay, and when you run the program, you're not gonna see this. Okay, you run the program, you're not gonna see it at the bottom. That means it's hidden. Nobody sees it. Okay, so I run the program, I cannot see anything in here. Now I'm gonna prompt the user to enter a number. I'm gonna say cout, enter your PIN number. Of course, I need a variable for that. I'm gonna call it guess, because he may be the right owner, he may not be, so we're gonna call it guess. So here, of course, we are going to give the user a chance to enter that number in guess. Now we're gonna use the while loop. The program should say invalid entry as long as the number is not correct. So it's gonna say while the number is not correct, keep saying invalid. So I'm gonna cout invalid entry. Please try again. And then give him a chance again. CIN. Because you want to give him at least a few more times. Okay, so what should I put in here? So the program will respond as invalid entry. When the two, that means the PIN number, the real one, and the guess are the same or different. What do you think? As long as the names, the two are the same or they are different, the program should say invalid entry.
If they're different,
Different, so I'm going to put if the PIN number, as long as the PIN number is different, we put different like this, exclamation mark equal guess. That means as long as these two are different, they're not the same, the computer or the compiler will keep saying invalid entry. Doesn't matter how many times. So now, once you get them correct, because you are stuck in here, because if they're different, you are always going to say invalid entry. It doesn't matter, 1,000 times, million times, doesn't matter. The only way you're going to exit this loop if you got them correct. So if I'm here, if I put cout, okay, congratulations, or you are logged in, that means you got it correct, because that's the only explanation. You are logged in successfully. So let's try the program, okay? I'm gonna run the program. The first thing I'm gonna say, enter your PIN number. Okay, I'm gonna try any 4 number, 4681. So the computer will check, is the PIN number different? Yes. So say this, invalid entry, please try again and give him a chance. Okay, try again. I'm gonna try 2, 3, 4, 5. Invalid entry. You can see there's a loop, it keeps going on and on and on. There is no way you're gonna get out of this unless you put the right one, which is 5264. If I enter, then the computer will say, oh, they are not different anymore. Now I'm going to exit the loop, and then it's going to say, oh, you are logged in successfully now. You see now? Now here, it's kind of difficult to use the for loop, because the for loop, we know 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. Do we know now how many times the user will try? Regardless whether he is the right owner. Sometimes the owner, sometimes you forget. Because you have a bunch of PIN numbers different, so you forgot, or maybe it's been a while since you went to the ATM, so maybe you forgot. So it may take you 3 times to remember, 4 times. Sometimes you don't even remember. So it's okay. Let me go to the bank and find out, or let me go to my account, and then maybe there is a way to change or reset your PIN number, whatever. Okay. So here we don't know how many times. So the while loop is appropriate here, because we use it as long as that condition is true, that means they are different, you're going to keep having the same answer, invalid entry, invalid entry. It doesn't matter how many times. The only way is if it's false. False means it's correct. They are not different, okay? So that's an example in which the while loop is preferable, is more useful, or is appropriate than the for loop, okay? Any questions about this?
No questions.
All right. So this is basically how the for loop and the while loop works. Let me see what kind of programs we have here, just to get an idea if you need any help with this. Let me see. I'm trying to see if you need any help with any of the programs. I mean, the one for this week, I mean, the loop, I think is about next week, I think. I don't think you have it for this one. Let me see what the programs you have for this week, see if you need help with any one of them. So this is the week of October the 4th. So October the 4th, you have the if statements. We talked about this, right? That's the one from last time. Okay, let me make sure that you can see my page. I'm talking about this one right here. So this is the program from last time, right? If statement, we talked about the, how much tax. We said it's the same thing, right? We went over how much tax. So you're going to say if the, of course, after calculating the BMI, you're going to use the formula. Okay, formula here, I put the BMI can be found by dividing the weight in kilogram. How do you change from pound to kilogram? I put here the equivalent. 1 pound is 0.4535, whatever that number is. And the same thing to change it to meter. So once you change it first, then you apply the formula, and then you see. If the BMI is less than 18.5, you're going to put, okay, underweight, or see out underweight. Okay, if, remember we use and, remember that? We put if the BMI is higher or equal than 18.5, and put and, the 2%. Remember that? If you forgot, go and watch the lecture again from last week. So you have to put two conditions and put and in between, which is to 2%. The % is when you use the shift key and number 7. Okay, so that's next to the star, to the asterisk. And the same thing for the rest. If BMI is higher or equal than 25, and BMI, you have to repeat BMI less than 30. Now again, just go over the video again. Number 2 is very simple, so you're going to put here character. If, or you can use the switch statements if you still remember it, but if statements will be fine. So you're gonna have a character, and you're gonna say if package equals A, then you are going to put, you will be charged 9.95 plus. Of course, you're gonna prompt the user to enter the number of hours. You have to know how many hours. So ask them for the number of hours and put 10. Hours, if you call it hours minus 10 multiplied by 2. Because here it says, if you consume more than 10 hours, you will be charged $2 per hour. 9.95 is the flat rate. And then anything beyond 10, that means hours minus 10 multiplied by 2. And for B is the same thing. Anything beyond 20, that means you have to put hours minus 20. Hours is the variable you're going to use to get inputs from the user. But you will have to charge 13.95 first, plus hours minus 20 times 1. For the last one, you don't even have to ask about the hours because it's unlimited. So don't ask if the package C, don't even ask them. Ask only for the first or the second situation, package A or B. C, don't ask because it's unlimited. You pay 19.95 regardless how many hours. And look at the, this is 2 samples how the program should be running. So you should have no problem with that. Okay, so let me see if there is anything else. So for the next week, so that's October 11th. Let's see. Okay, this is about, let me make sure I share. Okay, guys, can you see this?
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
have only you have only one program. And by the way, so next week, as I said, we're gonna have a kind of a review for the midterm, like the type of question you should expect. We're gonna have a review about the different concepts we covered. So for program number 6, so here we have like a kind of lottery game when you have 2 digits. So you're gonna create. Okay, here it says write a program that randomly generates a lottery of 2-digit number. Now, did we learn how to create a 2-digit number? Anybody, guys, do you remember?
Not sure, honestly.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
remember either.
Okay, so how do you create a random number? I'm gonna stop here and then show you how to create first a random number. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show. Let me. Okay, what is my program? Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So how do we create a random number? Okay. So I'm going to delete all of this and show you how to create one. I mean, I think you have it in the PowerPoint, but I'm going to show you an example how to do that. The first thing you need to do is you are going to start with this statement. That's going to create basically a random aspect to make it like random enough. So it's called srand, and you put here time null. I think null is capitalized. Always it should be there, this one, okay? Always should be there. And then I'm going to print, let's say cout, and then I'm going to put rand, and then you put this. Now what happened if I do only this? That's going to create a random number, but any number you can think of, big numbers. So if I run the program, you're going to get something like this. See, I got 373, whatever that number is. If I try another time, you're going to get a totally different number. But I don't need this number. This is too big. Yes, they're random, but that's too big. How can I get number, let's say, between 1 and 6, or 1 and 10, or 10 and 20, something like that? So how can I do that? It's simple. What you need to do, let me save it in a variable first before you print. So let's say I want to put x in here. So what you do, you put rand. Remember like the remainder? What happened if I put the remainder here? What are the possible values I can get, regardless how big the number is? Once I put the remainder, modulus 6, what are the possible numbers I can get?
Just numbers that can be divided by 6, is it?
No, we don't have divide. This is the remainder. That's when you
Oh,
divide by
sorry.
6, you can
Would
either get
be
0 or 1.
0
2,
to 5.
5.
5. Exactly, 2, 5. That's the only possible numbers you get, because when you divide by 6, the remainder has to be less than 6.
Oh, okay,
Otherwise,
okay.
it's not a remainder. If I put a remainder 10, all the numbers should be less than 10, like 1 to 9, and stuff like from 0 to 9. Okay, so if I run the program here and I try to print now x, it has to be between 0 and 5. So now let's print it and see. You're going to have only between 0 and 6. Now I get 1. Every time I run, I'm going to get something else. 2, 5. But you're never going to get a number higher than 5 or less than 0. See, 1, 0, 1, 3. So all kind of numbers, 0, 1, 5. So that's it. So this is how we create a random number. Now, what about if I create from 1 to 6? Let's say I'm playing like a dice game. I want, all what you need to do, just add.
7?
I want, this will give you from 0 to 5 inclusive.
Yeah.
But
So
what
we
if
add
I
in
want-
1, so it's from 1 to 6.
Exactly, you just have to add 1. I'm just going to put here parentheses, make sure to put parentheses here. And then you're going to add +1. That means start from 1, because by default it starts from 0. So just put here +1. So this will change it from 1 to 6. 1 to 6. If I want from 1 to 10, I'm going to put here 10. So basically, to get the smallest, if you know the smallest and the highest, like for example, in our example, our program, I want a random number basically from 10, because 2 digits, that means from 10 to 99, right? Because if you want to get only 2 digits, the number has to be between 10 and 99, a random number. So how can I create a random statement so I would get from 10 to 99? You subtract what? 10 from 99, and then you put plus 1. That's it. So if you put 99 minus 10, what is it?
89,
89. If you add 1,
90.
90. So that's what you're going to get here. So I'm going to put here 90, and then I'm going to start from where? From 10. So this is going to give me from 10 to 99. Done. So now this is what you're going to get for the random number, because you're going to generate a random number by the computer, and then you're going to prompt the user to try to guess. Let me go back and then explain. So this one we took care of about the random one, okay? So let me stop sharing and share the other or the rest of the problem. So it says, oh, I have to open file. So if I put share, okay. Oh, this one, can you see it? So it says write a program that randomly generates a lottery of a 2-digit number. We just did that, right? And then prompt the user to enter a 2-digit number, like guess, and determine whether the user wins according to the following rule. If they got it correct, like correct match, they're gonna get $10,000. They're gonna win. That means the computer generated 25 and the user happens to choose 25. It's very unlikely, but it's possible. $10,000. Now, if the digits are correct, but they are switched, like the computer put 25 and you answered 52. It's the same digit, but they switched them. So you get $3,000. Now, what about if you got only one of them? If the number is 25, you say 27. That means the 2 is correct, but the second one is not, or the other way around. So you get $100. Now the question, you should be able to separate the two digits. How can you do that? If I have 25, how can I separate the 5? How can I access 5 and 2? We talked about this when we added the digits. Do you guys remember? If I have 25, how can I say 5? Because to compare them, you have to separate them. You have to access them separately. Does anybody remember?
You do something with modulus?
Very good. I'm glad you mentioned. So you remember that. So let me just give you like a little help. I'm not going to give you all the help because you need to think about it, but I will kind of push you as much as I can. Okay, so I'm just gonna share my program. Okay, let me see, where is it? Okay, I have it here. So share my screen right here. So let's assume we have 2 numbers. Okay, we have that one, right? X. And then let's say the user, of course, we're gonna prompt the user, and I'm gonna put guess. It is 25, for example. So the computer, I don't know what the computer is gonna guess. It's gonna a random number. I know it's 2 digits. I just don't know what it is. So how do I compare them? So the first one, you're gonna compare if it's correct. That means if guess is equal to X, because that means it's exactly the same. So you're gonna win $10,000. Okay. So you're gonna say see out. You got $10,000. Of course, you're gonna put statement, right? You win statement, whatever it is. And then what about, I'm going to put here else, so I'm going to put a separate F statement if you don't want to use else F. Then I'm going to put, how I'm going to say that, okay, that it is switch. That means it's the same number is a switch. I'm going to put here, first one, I have to put, let's say I'm going to call it first. That means the one on the left side. How can I get the first one? if I put guess, okay, I'm talking about the guess now. So first, because we have X and guess, first, I'm gonna put guess and then divide by 10. If I divide by 10, I'm gonna get the 2. Now, the second one, which is the second number, the 5, you will do the modulus, yes, and then you're gonna use the modulus, 10. So now I'm gonna say if, and then we're gonna do the same thing for the X. Now, what about the X, which is the computer random number? So I'm gonna put here X first. Same thing, X divided by 10. I think like you know what I'm talking about here. So divide by 10, and then X second. That means the second digit of the X of the random number. Mod 10. So now I have each one of them, each digit. So all what I have to do here, I'm gonna switch them. I'm gonna put if first is equal to X second. That means the second digit of the random number is equal to the first digit of my guess. Or I'm gonna put, or you put it like this. Or is it and? Or no, it should be and. No. Both of them have to be correct. So I'm gonna put and the opposite, which is second. I have to put equal here. And the second is equal to first, second to X first. To X first. Then they're gonna win what? They're gonna win, what does it say? 3,000?
Yeah, 3,000.
3,000. And then what's the last situation? If
If
one
one
of
of them.
It's like $100.
that means one of them is correct and the other one is not correct. So you try to figure out how to do that. So I give you almost, you know, like 80% of the job. So you got, if it is equal, then 10,000. If the number is the same, it's just different order. So that means the first digit of the random is equal to the second of the guess, and then the other way around. Now the third situation, if one of them only, that means only one of them. So you have to look at the situation and see. Try your best. Remember, when I give you a program, don't get disappointed if the program does not run successfully every time. Try your best and then turn in whatever you have. So, okay, I did the best I could. This is my program. Because you may get perfect score. Why? Because you got almost everything in there. You are so close. You are missing just one part or two. So the way we grade the programs is different from any other class. It's not like an English or chemistry or physics or anything. No, this is a program. The closer you are, I can see the logic in front of me. I can see the most important, things are there. Then I'm most likely probably get you very. If I don't give you 4 credits, I may give you something close. Why? Because I can see the logic. I can see that you are doing the right thing. You got all the steps are there, but maybe you got stuck somewhere in there. So it should not be a problem. That's part of learning programming. Be patient and then don't get disappointed or get frustrated if the program, if it runs, that's the exception of the rule. If it's not running, that's the normal. That's how we have, because that's how we learn. If every time we have a program that runs the first time, you are missing a lot of opportunities, because every time you make a mistake and then learn from it, you're gonna remember next time. If you don't make that mistake, you're gonna keep making that mistake anytime. Okay, so just try your best and see if you can figure out. Now I give you the most important thing, how to access them individually using the division or using the remainder. Now the rest is up to you. Just try your best to figure it out. Okay, any questions before we conclude?
And when is the first project due again?
The project, I'll talk about it next week. It
Okay.
says, I think it's the week 8. The week 8, I will talk about it. So next time I will talk about it. So maybe we can speak like half time, even though like it's not that difficult. I mean, I can go over it very quick, but maybe next time I will go in details. Okay, let me see here what the program. I think it's in week, was it 8? I think, was it 8 or 9? Let me see. or no, week 7.
Posted in week 7.
Week 7, yeah, week 7.
Yeah,
So
but
let
it
me-
says that start working
It
on project
start,
one.
yeah. What does it mean start? That means it's over weeks, not 1 week.
Yeah.
That means it takes probably 2 or 3 weeks to finish it. I will tell you the deadline. Now let me just share, explain it very quick before we conclude, because next time I will talk about it in. So I'm sorry here. Let me. Okay, yeah. So what is the program asking here? Let me see. I'm trying to locate. Okay. Oh, it's right here. So couldn't find it. So this is the project one. Look, the first one is simple. You're gonna prompt the user. You can ask the user for the first and last name, right? And then you're gonna ask him for the diameter of the pizza. Like what we do, ask C in, C out. C out, enter your first name, okay? Enter your last name, enter the diameter, and then you save it. And then you're gonna calculate how many slices based on the diameter that they enter. And the formula is there. They put it in front of you. You don't even have to think about anything. To calculate the number, look at the bottom. To calculate the number of slices, simply divide the area. Everybody knows how to divide or how to calculate the area of circle. It's pi r square, or just put 3.14, okay, multiply by of course you need to find the radius, which is the diameter divided by 2, and then you square it. Okay, so find the area and then divide the area by 13.524 and you are done. That's the part number 1. It will take you probably 5 minutes. One more time. Input, ask the user, enter the first name, string, enter last name, string, enter a diameter, that's an integer, okay? And then you are going to calculate the area, okay? Here it says display the message telling user hi, and then the name if you want to add it, and then tell them the number of slices. So you are going to calculate the area first. So have a variable double area. You're going to use r. What is r? Diameter divided by 2, because you have the diameter, right? Divided by 2, and then multiply by r squared. That means you multiply the r by itself, okay? Or you can use pow that we learned, but just multiply by itself, and then multiply by 3.14. That's pi. Okay, once you find the area, it says right here, then to find the number of slices, you have to divide the area that you found by 13.524. That's what the first question is. Part 1. Now, part 2, you're going to make a menu that asks choices. Okay, you're going to put C out. Okay, so let me see here. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, you're gonna type it. That means you're gonna put C out, and then you're gonna, like when you run the program, the user should see these options. And then you're gonna ask him, enter your choice. If the choice is 1, then ask him about ask the user for the age and determine whether the user was born in an odd or even year. So you're gonna use the remainder too, okay? And then see if it is even year or odd year. That's simple. If the choice is 2, so we're going to use an if statement, 2, then calculate the tax based on the user input for an item's price and tax rate. So ask them about the price and then the tax rate, and tell them how much they're going to pay for the tax. If they choose number 3, that means you're going to prompt them, we're going to ask them to enter the Celsius, and then use the formula to convert it to Fahrenheit. Okay, if they answer number 4, that's the end of the program, which means this will be repeated. Now I'm going to take a minute here to show you here on program. Let's see. So let me turn the lights on. It's getting dark here.
Or
There we go. We got the light. So let me share my program here to show you. Okay, need to open the. So basically, we're gonna keep prompting the user every time they give them choice to have more than one choice. So remember, we use the while loop. So you're gonna have, once you prompt the user to enter, let's say I'm gonna delete all of this, and then you're gonna say, for example, here, the choice. Let's say integer choice, and then you put cn, for example, choice. And then you enter the choice, of course, assuming that you already have the variable choice. And then you're going to use the while loop as long as it's not for. So first you're going to ask him, okay, first you have to show this menu. Okay, one, do this. Okay, say out. Number two, do this. Okay, so all the options should be displayed. Okay, do this. Now I'm going to talk a little bit in detail about next time, just showing like kind of a little overview about this. So the first time when the program runs, the user will see the options, do this, and then you're going to put here the while loop. As long as the choice is not for, that means if they enter for, that's the end of the program. Then you're going to put if statement. If the choice is 1, do this. If the choice, you can put else if you want to, just put if. If choice is 2, do this, and so on. Which means if they choose 4, automatically that's going to exit the loop, and that's the end of the program. If they didn't choose 4, then you're going to repeat this. Again, choose 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. So that's basically how the program number 2 or part number 2 is going to go. That means you're going to keep asking them, enter your choice, enter your choice. Sometimes they answer 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. When they want to end, they're going to put 4. So here, the while loop, when you put 4, that means you're going to exit the loop, and that's the end of the program. Maybe you can put here, enter outside, see out. Thank you so much for, thank you for participation or something like that. Anyway, so we'll get the chance to explain it even more next time, but I'm just kind of overview of what you were supposed to do. Okay. All right. Any questions? So take a look at it and see if you can figure it out on your own. If you cannot, or if you have questions, send me an email. But the next week, we're going to make sure that I answer all the questions you may have about the project. The first one is super easy. You can start that one because there's no loop in there. Okay, you just prompt the user to enter first name, last name, diameter, and then calculate the area, and then find the number of slices. It tells you everything you need to do. You don't even have to think about anything. For number 2, you're going to use the loop because you want to repeat the process many times. You don't want to give them the choice one time and then you stop. You want to keep asking them. So you're going to put while the choice is not for, keep asking them, enter your choice and stuff like that. If they choose 1, then do this. If they choose number 2, do something else, and so on. Okay, any questions? I think it's about time. Do you have any questions?
yeah, I have a quick question, real quick.
Yes.
It's about it's okay. It's first for the screenshots. Do you want a screenshot for every interpretation, like for this week's program, like underweight, overweight, or stuff like that, or just one?
Just one.
Okay.
Just make sure you turn it. I want to see the code first. The code, I have to see the entire code, and then you give me a screenshot. If you can take like both the code and then the outputs at the same time, that's fine. But you don't have to use every single situation. No, only
Okay,
one.
got you.
Yeah,
Okay,
one
got you.
example, like one sample.
Okay.
Because there are many samples. I don't want you like to spend too much time just taking this screenshot. Just
Yeah,
one,
okay, that makes
but
sense.
one specific case. Either
Okay.
the first one, second one, the third one. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's a good question. Yes. Any other question?
I'm sorry, this is a separate question. Do you
Yes.
teach the 1437?
I don't teach it this year. I may teach it probably next year, but I don't teach it this year. I mean, this semester, I don't teach it. I teach
Okay,
only
and
1436.
maybe for spring?
Maybe it depends. Like they didn't tell us what classes we're going to be teaching this coming spring, but we should know probably very soon. Probably in maybe by the end of October or something. Probably we will have a good idea what classes. But so far, I did not hear anything.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So thank you so much for your time. I will be posting the video, the recording, in case like you want to go over it. So I will, yeah, we're gonna find it in the on the site.
Also,
right.
sorry, I just saw somebody asked a question on the chat, that if there's a specific date to do the midterm, or do we have like the entire week?
I'm not sure. Okay, I think no, there is. Okay, I'll talk about this because I need to check what the policy is. Does it have to be a specific date, and then I'll let you know. So sometime during the week, I will tell you if there is an exact date or there is a range between this and this. That's a good question. I will get the right info because I don't want to say something and then change my mind later on. So I'm gonna get the right information from the administration and then get back with you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Oh, so I have just one more question. My bad.
Yes.